Hello again. There may be those in Britain who are fanatically opposed to immigration and have a hatred of living next door to members of ethnic minorities, but I suspect that such people are rare. Most of us live quite amicably in a town where the great majority of people share our ethnicity and culture, but there are scattered among all the white English people Hindus, Sikhs, Caribbeans, and so on. As long as most people are like us, and those of other cultures are clearly only a minority, then most of us rub along well enough. The situation, though, changes when people start to feel like outsiders in their own country. This is happening increasingly often in many parts of Britain, and it accounts for a number of things we observe, ranging from the so-called white flight from parts of cities to voting for the Reform Party. This is because most people want to live alongside others who speak the same language, have a common religion, and share the same culture. The situation today in Britain is that there are quite a few urban districts where white British people are in a minority, and this creates unease and anger. Nobody wishes to feel like a stranger in his or her own country. This has only arisen in recent years, and until the turn of the century, even in the areas of the highest concentration of immigrants, it was still clear that they were a minority. Today, walking in an area like the East London district of Ilford, one sees hardly any white people, and this for white English people is not a pleasant experience. It creates resentment. More to the point, it creates instability and the potential for violence and disorder. This is because pluralist societies, by their very nature, are not stable. They tend to fragment and split up, so that instead of one large pluralist society, you end up with two smaller homogeneous societies. This happened in Cyprus as recently as 1974. It happened after Indian independence. It happened when Israel became a nation. It has happened almost every time that one sees a pluralist or multicultural society. Such setups contain within them the seeds of their own destruction. I say this not because I am urging destruction, but because that is what happens automatically. Some societies do manage to avoid this fate. It is true, but always there will be underlying tensions which are ready to flare up at the slightest excuse. This is the situation now in modern England, and it is much to be regretted. The more areas in the country which exceed 50% of non-white British residents, the more that British society as a whole becomes under tension, which can in turn trigger disorder and violence. This is not something stirred up by far-right agitators or social media influences, as we are sometimes given to believe. It is rather a natural consequence of such situations. It's impossible to reverse the present state of affairs, but it's certainly possible to prevent it becoming worse. If we do not do so, then eventually we too, just like India and Cyprus, will see a splitting of a large multicultural society into smaller ethnically homogeneous ones, which is not a prospect which many of us relish.